Hello and welcome to Test Pattern, a podcast about people and their relationship with movies. I'm Angus Truskett, and each episode I'm joined by someone I admire to talk all things film and get to know them through the movies that have mattered the most to them. This episode I'm joined by Melbourne-based writer, film critic and podcaster Tansy Gardam. Tansy is the creator and host of Going Rogue, one of the most deeply researched and entertaining film podcasts around, dedicated to the stories behind troubled and chaotic movie productions. Each episode dives into films that went off the rails and somehow made it to the screen. The show takes its name from the famously troubled production of 2016's Rogue One and has since covered everything from Pirates of the Caribbean to Ballerina and Gladiator II. Going Rogue is a show I genuinely drop everything for when a new episode lands. It's thoughtful, obsessive, and made by someone who clearly loves movies in all of their messy human complexity. So I want to get Tansy on the show to talk about her relationship with film, not just the productions that go wrong, but the movies that shape her, stuck with her, and became part of who she is. Tansy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so keen to be here.
Wow, that's an honor. We were just chatting before, and I'm so taken by the environment you set yourself up in. You kind of have this, what I would call like a Pedro Pascal wonder wall almost.
Yeah, a little bit. I'll level with you. I set this up last night because I had another junket interview yesterday and I did it from here and I looked like I was in a wall padded for safety kind of environment. So yeah, we've got Mando, we've got Ted Garcia for mayor. Mm-hmm. I think those are the only Pedros. But,
I think so, yeah.
You know, he's in great company. He's got Wagner Moura. He's got Rose Byrne, Charli XCX. Like, it's a dream blunt rotation.
Pedro, I think, would say Kamala is Brat. You know, he strikes me as that type of...
Yeah.
First question I always ask is, what was the last thing you watched?
It was The Moment. I went and saw the Charli XCX last night, which
Straight
was
over your left shoulder.
Yes, she's watching me. Yeah, I really loved it. Have you seen it yet?
I did. I saw it actually a few weeks ago because I was supposed to interview her and then she cancelled.
Oh.
Well, yeah, I don't even know if I can say that. But no, I'll keep it in here. Peek behind the curtain. And it was this very strange screening where I was just in a theaterette by myself.
Oh, do they put you in alone?
Yeah. And someone just sat in there watching me watch it, making sure I wasn't like filming it. But no, you saw The Moment. It came out in Australia last night, I believe, or preview screening. So what did you think?
I really loved it. I thought it was just a really fascinating self-immolation of an artist almost. I loved how bitchy it is about Taylor Swift without ever naming her. But yeah, in terms of unvarnished looks at like particularly female artists, I loved the way she looked in it because she looked like a real person. Like, it wasn't constantly trying to glamorize her or shoot her with the best light. She looks like shit for a lot of that movie.
Yeah, that great scene where her and Kylie Jenner, which I think is like the apex of the film, when they have that almost like a standoff, but a bitchy friendly standoff in a health spa, and Kylie looks like something that's been carved out of...
Yeah, Kylie looks like she's 3D rendered.
Yeah, and Charli looks like the rest of us, but in that scene looks like shit. She's like red in the face, her hair's fucked, she looks disgusting, she's panicked. Incredible. No, I really liked it. I thought I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was such an interest. This is great. I get to use the questions that I would have asked Charli about it. But I just really liked the whole idea of like, you know, and I believe you would probably come across this so much with your line of work, and particularly Going Rogue, where people create something and then it obviously, the moment it's released, there's this tension because it stops being yours. In a way, it becomes the public's. And I just really loved it. She kind of, in this film, is kind of taking control of Brat, but in an alternate reality, and kind of ending it on a bizarre note on her terms. And I just think that was such a really cool meta, hate that word, but very cool way of being like, this is over now.
Yeah, it's let the brat die, kill it if you have to. Like, it's the only way that she was able to actually end it on her terms.
It was so funny. The cast is great.
Alexander Skarsgård, I'm loving this era. Like, I know a lot of people say that Colin Farrell is a character actor cursed with a leading man's face. Alexander Skarsgård is absolutely that. He just wants to be a weird little guy.
Yeah. But he looks like Adonis, but he wants to be so weird. Yeah, no, he is amazing. And obviously, I would say... You just mentioned nameless Taylor Swift slander, but exactly the type of director that would film a Taylor Swift era.
Yeah, it's Joseph Kahn. Joseph Kahn, is that his first name? Yeah, it's that guy. You know exactly who it is. And yeah, that kind of idea of like what is corporate edgy and what is acceptable for an Amazon tour video, and just that I think it is the last line of the film, spoilers, but they have an ad for the Amazon concert film for Brat, and it has the line, "Be a 365 party girl from the comfort of your own home." And like, yeah, it's fucking incredible. Like,
yeah, it's an amazing ending. It's so sick. I wonder if people who aren't like, I really like Charli. I'm not a diehard fan, but I really like her work. I think she's so interesting. I wonder if people will watch this not knowing
that it's an exaggeration. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how it connects, because I know she did do a Brat launch for a bank, and I think that really fucked her up.
Yeah, well,
this really happened.
Judging by the film, yeah.
Yeah, and she then like apparently just like wrote a document and sent it to Aiden Zamiri, the director, and was just like, "This is what I'm feeling right now." And then I think the film was like born out of that. But it is kind of such an interesting. Yeah, I love it. I'm so excited for like the 400 movies she's about to be in. And
yeah, because I saw Wuthering Heights as well this week, which I didn't hate as much as most people, I think just because I was too amused by it. But yeah, I think her work in that, I almost believe that it's knowing parody. Like, I would almost believe that she's in on the joke, but I don't know if Emerald Fennell was, so...
Yeah, no, I think they're actually, like, very... I mean, obviously, Charli is a natural link between the films. You know, starred in one and wrote the music for the other. But, yeah, I don't know if Emerald's in on the joke. I think she thinks it's edgy. I think she's like...
if we're talking about like films that are willing to show someone looking unvarnished, it's so funny to be like, yeah, this is a raw, filthy, sexy, like natural, like absolutely base adaptation of Wuthering Heights. And I'm looking at Margot Robbie and I'm like, 3 hours. That's 3 hours in makeup minimum. Like once you've got hair in, unless they're wigging and then just chucking it on, like that's a 3 hour look.
Yeah, no, it's night and day. And yeah, I think maybe Emerald would perhaps, you know, she always gets accused of being a music video director, but maybe her and Alexander Skarsgård's character have more in common.
Yeah.
So you watched The Moment last night. Can you switch off ever? Like, are you cursed with watching things through an analytical lens in regards to what you do and how you do it?
It sounds really bitchy to say, but it is like a mark of quality if I can switch off. If I can just like brain off, enjoy the movie as a movie, then I almost, it's almost like a self-fulfilling cycle. That makes me be like, how'd you do it? How did you get me to like not be noticing everything that you're doing to make this work?
Did that happen recently? Has that happened recently? Like, what's the strike rate?
It's like, to be honest, it's not that high a threshold. It's like, you know, I do still enjoy movies. I'm not someone who only, you know, who sees them as my curse or anything like that. And like, if I notice something that I think is really good, that's still like, you know, that's a good thing. But yeah, I don't have particular tastes. I'm not like a horror movie person or a, you know, only dramas person. But yeah, I would say that I'm a quality person. I like good movies, regardless of what they are. And like, this is an unusual pick, but I'm currently obsessed with the 2024 Count of Monte Cristo film. It's a French version of an adaptation of the novel. And that's one that like, I know the story really well. I've read the book, and watching it, I was sort of really conscious of all the adaptational changes they made, but I was enjoying it so much throughout that I did switch off. And I was like, yeah, I'm just having a good time being in France in 1815 and 1840. And yeah.
I follow you obviously on Instagram, and you have been Christo-maxxing in a big way lately.
Absolutely. Yep. I just read the book about Alexandre Dumas' father. I'm reading Count of Monte Cristo. I watched the film again last week. Like...
Do you bring people in, like when you get an obsession like this, like if you've discovered...
I force it on people, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is a pattern. No, that's good. I too have this disease. It happened with me last year with Den of Thieves, the like meathead.
Incredible.
Heat, the like Monster Energy version of Heat, which I just kept watching over and over and would just invite people to come and watch it with me, and I would watch them watch it. And I think there's just something, I think it's like, I just think it's like showing a part of your soul when you're like, please watch this thing I really care about. I'm letting you in because I trust you, and you might hate this and you might then judge me. But no, I love that feeling. Is this one of the reasons why you would start a podcast about films too? Because you want to impress upon somebody else your love and devotion and care of film? Or no, is this a different thing?
It's 50-50. It's that, and also just being annoyed at repetition of misinformation. I suppose misinformation is like a heady word to give it, but like the IMDb trivia that is easily disproven kind of thing. And particularly around, because Going Rogue launched shortly before Andor, which was deliberate. I wish I could be like, oh, it's just a coincidence. No, we're all online. We're all in some way in the algo. But the number of times that in the lead up to Andor, I saw people saying, oh, actually Tony Gilroy came onto Rogue One and he was the one who decided to kill them all. And I was just like banging my head against a wall being like, second draft. It's in the second draft of the script. You couldn't do that sort of change in post. Like, that's not possible. So Going Rogue in particular started out as a mission to get people to stop saying incorrect things about Rogue One, which hasn't worked. It absolutely hasn't worked. But at least some people can actually that kind of behavior.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very valiant quest. I love that the basis of the show is to stop misinformation. That's near and dear to me.
Nothing motivates me quite like spite.
Told you so's, etc. Yeah. Let's chat about Rogue One.
Yes.
How does an episode start? Because this is one of the most well-researched things I've ever heard. The amount of scripts and drafts that you read, the amount of work that goes into it. When does the germ of an idea of you wanting to do an episode on a film begin?
It's often, to be honest, when I watch a film and I'm sort of like, what's going on here? Like, particularly Megalopolis. I remember watching it and about 5 minutes in being like, I gotta know. And I felt like in that particular case, there would be a lot out there about how it had developed over 40 years. In other cases, like with Don't Worry, Darling, I realized that because I kind of hoard screenplays when they get released. Often people will, put them up for awards consideration. And I realized that I had both the initial blacklist draft and the shooting script, and that the shooting script did not strongly resemble the final cut. So that was a case of knowing that the information was there and being like, okay, this is a good starting point. And then sort of diving deeper from there. And Don't Worry, Darling was a movie that definitely I watched and thought, what happened? But in that case, too, there was so much gossip around it that I avoided it for a long time. I didn't want to get involved in the gossip cycle. And it took kind of that ability to say, we're not going to talk about the press tour. We're not going to talk about conflicts beyond, particularly the one with Shia LaBeouf that kind of blew up part of the production. Like, that was the starting point for that. So it's often as well feeling like I have an angle to offer. Because with Gladiator II, a lot of people have spoken over the years about that Nick Cave draft, because Nick Cave has spoken about it.
Russell Crowe has spoken about it.
Yeah. It's an insane script, and it's been out there for ages. And a lot of people would just take what Nick Cave had said and say, oh yeah, that's what he did. And the script itself is quite different to what he described. And as Gladiator II was coming out, Ridley Scott sort of started spilling some tea about it as well. So that felt like an opportunity to almost correct the record on the record as it stood, to kind of clear up some things. Yeah, so it's like one of the guiding principles of Going Rogue is, do we have anything to say here? Is there something new to add to the conversation? Because I don't want to just be like, reading a Wikipedia page and occasionally checking the citations and being like, it was actually in the Hollywood Reporter. I didn't get this from Wikipedia kind of vibes.
And how many of the productions have Shia LaBeouf in them, do you think? Like, is this a theory? Is he the nucleus of many of these?
Have you seen Megadoc?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The day I got Criterion to watch it.
No, I had a friend around and we were both pointing at the screen being like, there's Silverfish. That's his little like directing RV kind of thing. Like fully just point at screen Leo, but like for pieces of technology essentially. Yeah, like Shia LaBeouf in that. What a beautiful study in a man determined to blow it up. Like a man who simply can't help himself.
No. Whether it be on the set of, a film that's had 40 years of production gestation, or the streets of New Orleans, like he is just determined to. He's competing with Ezra Miller, I think, for who can destroy cities.
Yeah, I think the solution is we put them in the octagon. That's the only way that we're going to be free.
I would root for Shia any day. I am a Shia, not apologist, but I do think Shia brings a lot more to the table as an actor than.
Well, yeah. Well, again, in Megadoc, it's so funny when you realize he's talking about how he's known John Voight forever, and John Voight really stand through him, and then you're like, oh, Holes. They did Holes together.
Yeah. Their relationship is so fascinating, and how he attributes John Voight to like turning him into a film buff, and that like awkward scene where you see him like apologize, or I think he speaks about he phoned up John Voight before they were beginning the film to kind of, it sounded very AA, like 12-step or something, but starts apologizing for past behavior. I want to see that film. I want to see maybe what we can do there. Has doing Rogue One and researching these productions so much, does it ever change, and maybe this is such an obvious question, but does it change your view of a filmmaker permanently afterwards? Do you gain respect, less respect? Like, is there usually a similar outcome, or is it quite different for all of the films?
Oh, absolutely. Because I think like something that I want to do as well is to kind of give credit to artistic process. And that really starts with Rogue One, that Gareth Edwards has a super interesting filmmaking process. I think it doesn't work for a lot of the films that he's made, but I respect it. And I think it is bold to go into a big Hollywood production where things are so set on rails in terms of what you will and won't do and what release date you're going to hit, to go in with a filmmaking methodology that comes from just like trying to shoot something in the jungle in South America and you're going to do the VFX later yourself. So I think, like, yeah, definitely I respect a lot of the directors I cover, except Kenneth Branagh. I think that we do need to try him in The Hague at this point. But yeah, it is really interesting to sort of get into as well. Like, the proposed earlier versions of films are almost always more interesting. And that's often because they didn't have to get made. Like, there's a reason that they were the proposed early versions, because then they had to compromise artistically on what could actually get to cinemas. But yeah, I think that there is often a new side to a lot of creatives that you learn. Like, it's insane to think the guy who has the story by credit on Rogue One, who is an executive producer on the film and like is a lifer at ILM, invented Photoshop. Like, that's such an insane connection. Like, yeah, a man who has given so much to society and yeah, happens to be technically one of the writers of Rogue One.
It's amazing. It's no surprise to most people, like, you know, a 41-year-old guy who was obsessed with Star Wars and really loved the prequels growing up. Like, they were my ones because I was of age. I was very, in a strange twist of fate, I actually worked on Attack of the Clones for about 3 weeks as a 15-year-old. My... that's when they started moving the production to Australia for those two, the episodes 2 and 3.
That's when the dollar was absolutely cratering.
100%. And my family friend still is actually a foreman for movie sets. So he builds like all the George Miller stuff, Matrix, everything that's made here. And he's like, oh, I know you love Star Wars. Why don't we... I can have you on as my apprentice, but you start the day we end and shooting begins. Mm-hmm. And I had obviously devoured special features and stuff, and taped every documentary. And so I remember seeing John Knoll in the flesh and having a reaction that a 15-year-old should not have to like a 40-something
to a grown man who happens to be in the visual effects department,
who has a chrome ball just lighting scenes, making sure all of the Naboo chrome in Padme's apartment would not fuck up. And no, the fact that John Knoll is with us every time we go to graphic design, it's such a beautiful thing. What a contribution to society.
Yeah, and I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean, like, he was the VFX supervisor on that too, and truly, like, a movie that holds up, that is nearly, in some cases, most of them are 20 years old now. And yeah, they're gorgeous. They're good to watch.
We are being specific with obviously the first three, not the...
Oh yeah, no, we don't talk about the others. I don't consider them to exist.
They're not canon. Has anyone ever reached out that's been part of a production that you've covered to ever say like, damn, you got that right, or, well, actually?
Look, occasionally. I probably shouldn't name them, but yeah, there is the occasional person who's like, yeah, or it's normally tangential. It's normally like, oh, I'm mates with like this person who worked on that, or I'm working with them at the moment, kind of thing. It's very rarely like one-to-one. I probably shouldn't ruin secrets on that, but I think like the reassuring thing is that usually the response is, yeah, it's worse, or like...
It's worse than you imagine. A moment ago, you were speaking about this kind of, when there is, the film is in a germ stage, essentially, when it's just ideas, and the scripts are usually far more, there's no budget in mind while they're writing a script, so they're as far out as possible. Are you as much as a glutton for concept art books as I am?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, when I say I read, I don't. I look at pictures.
I look at the pictures, yeah.
Yeah, I have way too many, as if I'm like trying to protect books, like the Library of Alexandria or something. I have like every films I don't even like. I'm like, I better watch the process. Like those images of those early ideas that are never going to make into a film because they're just I don't know what it is. They're so beautiful.
I'll have to send you John McCoy, who's done a lot of the recent Star Wars films. He has like these really big visual sketchbooks just on his website where he posts. Oh, wow. I don't know what the copyright situation is there, but I don't want to narc on him. And his early work on Rise of Skywalker is gorgeous, and it's not at all related to a script. Like, it was just him kind of vibing out like scenes that he'd like to see, and they look fantastic. Like,
I've probably seen some. Just I remember that fateful day, and I'm sure you do too. The Duel of the Fates script leak and the concept art, and just kind of making a film. I felt like a kid who hadn't seen the film but was reading like a novelization that has pictures in the middle, like the glossy pictures.
Yes.
And I remember having that very same feeling when the failed Colin Trevorrow film script leaked, and kind of reading that and also going, oh well, this one sucks too, but at least the pictures are nice or something.
Yeah. I feel like the glazing of Duel of the Fates was largely reactionary. It was like in response to the film that was made.
Yeah.
But like, I think it has some valid, like, interesting ideas. It also tries to do Poe and Ray, and it's like, I'm sorry, where did you get this? How did you come up with the one couple that no one had ever thought of? Like,
just is the opposite of magnetism in terms of chemistry. It ain't good. What has been the most enjoyable film that you've covered in your research? Something that you were like, holy shit, this was a disaster. I don't know, but we could probably do a whole season on this one.
Look, I think just because it was a film that most people didn't realize existed, Artemis Fowl. Like, I think because that film it's atrocious. It's one of the worst things I've ever watched. Like, truly,
and that was Kenneth Branagh, right?
Kenneth Branagh in 2020, I think they finally released it, and it's a movie that Disney have removed from Disney Plus. Like, they try really hard to pretend they didn't make it, essentially. But I loved those books as a kid, so I had watched it week of release with another friend who I'd like recommended the books to when we were both kids. And it's atrocious to watch. And it's also like a fascinating journey of like 20 years worth of script development trying to get this film off the ground. And that's also probably the only episode that I've kind of broken news in it, in that I got some stuff that had not previously been released and kind of worked that into it. And it's just the story of how do you completely fail an adaptation in a way that like is incredibly expensive and unwatchable.
So does that mean then that the worse a production, the formula means that it equals a better episode for you?
Sometimes, but like, I love Pirates of the Caribbean, and like I think they are, like, particularly the first one, still a 5-star film. So I really enjoyed researching that because it was nice to constantly be like, wow, you did this thing and it worked so well. Like, you set out to do this, you achieved it, and it was an interesting new thing to do.
Do you think that Going Rogue has changed the way that you trust or distrust studio narratives and press tours?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, Tony Gilroy's just finally come out and said Disney didn't let him say genocide or fascism while promoting his series about the fascist genocide. Like, and definitely, like, there is narrative management in things that present themselves as neutral. So a lot of behind the scenes stuff, there is narrative management in it. Like, Rogue One has got to be the ultimate example in that Tony Gilroy doesn't appear in any of the behind the scenes materials for that film, which kind of shot Disney in the foot when they were trying to promote Andor. They're like, yeah, it's this guy. You remember this guy? And everyone's like, I've never met this man before in my life. What do you mean I remember this guy? And things that definitely, like, kind of almost changed the historical record. Like, the sadder example is Marsha Lucas and the way that, like, post-divorce she was written out of the Lucasfilm story.
I mean, she saved Star Wars, essentially, in the editing bay. Like, it was, we've heard so many reports of De Palma and everyone being like, this is unwatchable. Like, this movie's fucked, when George was showing his pals early on. And Marsha Lucas saved that film from what we know.
Yeah, and she was, like, heavily involved in pre-production too. She was, she wrote lines that are in the film. She helped with casting. She did the sort of job that you do when your partner is creatively making something, which is that you are an informal producer. But post-divorce, she was kind of carefully written out of a lot of that. And she was also uninvited to family gatherings that George would be at. And yeah, it's like, this really sad story. And like, she has gone on record. She went on record a bit later in life. And one thing that I was like, oh, that's devastating, is she was like, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to just seem like the bitter ex-wife who said that she helped.
Was there a documentary that came out about her recently?
Relatively recently, there was a series, I think it's called Icons Unearthed, that was about particularly Star Wars. And it was a lot of the technicians and people who worked behind the scenes on that. But they also recently, again, I'm not sure about the ethics of doing this. They released like just the raw interview that they did with her. That's like a 3-hour sit down. So I'm about halfway through that. I question the ethics of just releasing your raw sit down, but also they kind of show their hand a bit in doing it, because I don't want to critique anyone else's interview style, but they're kind of coaching her towards certain answers, like in a way that I would not describe as delicate.
Yeah, right. I've got to watch that as a Star Wars completionist. I must see the Marshall Lucas cut. Have you ever covered like a film that I guess this is kind of like a Stockholm syndrome thing, where you spend so much time with its absolute failure that you couldn't help but find like something endearing about it that turned into some form of love?
I don't know if love, like I do definitely get Stockholm syndrome. There's, I know more about Rebel Moon than possibly anyone except Zack Snyder. And like, yeah, with Rebel Moon, I think the point at which I was like, I need to put these episodes out so I can stop thinking about this, was when I was like, maybe if I just put all of the cuts into Premiere and just kind of had a go and saw if, I could probably make like one decent 2-hour movie out of this.
Is it possible, do you think?
If I had the rushes, probably. Going from what there is, I don't think so. But yeah, I think there's, you get attached to anything that you're covering in detail. Snyder's interesting because I think he's a fun kind of meathead to cover, because nearly everything he says I disagree with, but he says it so joyfully.
And all of his productions have essentially...
Oh, everyone loves working with him too.
Yeah, they're like, this guy's great despite the fact there's no sugar on sets and we have to get pumps in between takes. I remember reading, he's kind of got that Mark Wahlberg-ness. So I remember reading that he has like a gym built on every soundstage, so he can just get like pumps in between takes and stuff, which is pure maniac behavior and something that I would not be into. He does seem lovable. He comes across as like this quite like just nerdy guy who loves Fortnite.
Yeah, the thing is, like, he seems perfectly lovely and he'd be like great to have a beer with. And like, I can understand how on set you'd be like, yeah, we're having a great time. He seems really, and like you watch the stuff he produces and you're like, oh no. Like,
yeah, why is there a 10-minute rape scene in every film essentially? You know what I mean? Like, there's this weird like high school juvenile, like,
there's a confidence in what he does that is very juvenile. Like,
do you think then that there is literally such a thing as a non-cursed film production? Like, do you kind of see every film as a miracle that makes it out into the public despite its quality?
Well, it's almost the reverse, because the one film that I always think of when someone's like, can you treat your crew well? And, like everyone wraps on time, everyone has a good time making it. There's a creative conversation. The director seems to know what he's doing. The script is locked in advance, but he's still open to collaboration, or at least, to discussion around certain. It's The Last Jedi. That's what happened on The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi was, by all reports, just a dream to work on.
Came in under budget, the only Star Wars film that came in on time.
The edit was locked like 5 months before they were having to work. Like, that's unheard of for Star Wars.
And they loved it so much, they're like, oh, we're going to give you a trilogy. Like, we need you to command this ship before, the great splitting of, I think, public sanity happened after that film came out. There's like...
Yeah, the great crash out of 2017.
Yeah, it still blows me away, the reaction to that film, that I still can't quite wrap my head around. But yeah, you're right. That is like, for all intents and purposes, the one that comes to mind. One thing I love about your show is you're doing God's work in the sense that I will not really watch any of the films that you talk about, and you're kind of taking one for the team. It's so selfless, and I can like... I'll listen to an episode of, I do see a lot of them, but, a lot of them's not by choice. It's for, like, reviewing purposes. But the ones that you cover that I've not seen, like, I'm never compelled to watch them because your astute research has just done enough for me, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. I do inflict those films on friends and family. Like, there is often, I try to watch everything at least twice before covering it, which will mean something like Megalopolis. It means dragging a friend to the cinema to see Megalopolis.
Did you see a screening? Was there like the interaction scene where somebody stood up?
Yes, I saw it at MIFF. They had Andrew Hansen from The Chaser, which felt like a strange choice. Especially considering like Alexi was in town at the time.
Yeah, he was at my one. I went with him and he's like, he sat next to me. He's like, I gotta go. I'll be back in 2 minutes. And like walked down the giant IMAX steps to then interact.
And like, I don't know if this happened for all of them, but for IMAX, that particular scene was shot at a way smaller size than the rest of the film. Like, it was tiny on the huge screen. Like,
bizarre. What a beautiful film that we've been blessed with from Mr. Coppola. Definitely worth selling much of your personal property over, I think.
Look, the man made a bet and he's living with it. You think how many like people make terrible movies for studios? They don't see any consequences of that. Like,
I loved in Megadoc just seeing throughout the decades the various cast combinations, like the Gosling.
Oh, the Gosling version, yeah.
Yeah, I was so fascinated, and I love. You know, there's obviously the Hearts of Darkness and this world of the, the documentary is as good, sometimes if not better than what happened. And I just wish that I could see much more footage of those different combinations of previously cast actors and actresses in those roles.
Yeah, even just seeing young Giancarlo, like very, like early 2000s Giancarlo, he's got like gorgeous long hair. And you're like, oh my God, that's Gus Fring. Like,
Yeah. I that documentary is fascinating. While I don't think it hits the highs of Hearts of Darkness, the Megadoc is once again, I think, far more interesting than Megalopolis.
Well,
in a sense.
I think like Megadoc is wild because you get the sense, like, it is a documentary that's affected by its access. In that Adam Driver didn't want to be in it, so he does one little sit down clearly because he likes Mike Figgis as a person, not because he wants to be part of it. And the documentary is about Shia LaBeouf and Aubrey Plaza and John Voight's characters, who are a B-plot in the film. You could watch Megadoc several times and have no idea what happens in Megalopolis.
Yeah, 100%. That's so true. Thank God for Aubrey, though. She's
a
really
woman who
her
knows
role.
what movie she's in at all times.
The only person on set. Seeing her like Zoom auditions with Francis was just brilliant too. Like her swigging wine and being funny and negging him. I was like, this is great. More of that.
Yeah. No, I'm a big Aubrey Plaza defender. I feel like there is the accusation she does the same thing in everything, and I'm like, no, she does a similar thing, but she knows how to taper it to what film she's doing.
Sometimes it's with Bad Grandpas. Sometimes it's
it's with Operation Fortune's Ruse de Guerre.
Yeah, and sometimes it's when she's WoW Platinum. I mean, people contain multitudes. Aubrey is one of them. Thank you for that peek behind the scenes of how did you get into like researching films? I know you're a film critic and you've obviously spent time writing about films, and what made you kind of go, okay, I'm turning this pleasure into a business?
I guess lack of economic opportunity? No. It was sort of that point where I was like, if no one's going to make this other than me, and if I wasn't making it, this is something that I wish existed. And so that was kind of the starting point. And yeah, the research element is just, my cross to bear and my bad brain. I'm from the Wikipedia generation, you have to know more.
I too have this illness.
But yeah, particularly like with Rogue One as a starting point, I felt like there was a lot of information out there. And actually, weird full circle moment, I'd read this interview with the editors shortly after the film came out that stuck with me for years, because I was like, that's such a bizarre way to edit this film. And then years later, the reporter who'd written that suddenly followed me on Instagram, and I messaged me like, hi, I loved your report on like the editors in Rogue One. He was like, yeah, I've listened to the show, and I like wasn't expecting that. But yeah, like weirdly full circle moment for me.
Look, you can tell while listening that you love films. You're not like, you're not trying to...
Oh, I'm not doing this for like some sort of algorithmic boost. This is not a trend chasing. This is my cross to bear.
No, the wall of posters plastered behind you says otherwise. So I wanted to ask you about, like, pre-podcast Tansy, pre-going rogue. I would love to know your favorite films from when you were 10, 15, and 20. Like, do they stay the same? Are you kind of ride or die locked in on a franchise, or are they different things that are, that show the growth of a young woman?
Yeah, sorry, my cat has joined the conversation.
No, this is great.
Yeah.
But which cat are we dealing with now?
This is Tabitha.
Yeah,
because
is that
she
because
is a
they're
tabby.
a tabby?
Yes, my father did name her. He kept it simple. No, I feel like definitely my film like favorites changed over the years as a like kind of expansion rather than a like complete change in personality. When I was 10, actually, for my 10th birthday, I got the DVD of Return of the King. So, like, I was deep in Lord of the Rings at the time. I'd only watched, like, I'd seen Return of the King for the first time when it came out. And then in the months from then until my 10th birthday, I was just absolutely obsessed. And that's where a lot of the interest in how films are made came from, because we had the DVDs, which had such comprehensive behind-the-scenes
gold
features.
standard.
Absolutely.
The gold standard, let's be honest. Those extended editions, appendices, documentaries are like, that's film school.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I didn't necessarily understand what a lot of like the jobs were, but I understood that like there was a lot of jobs, that it wasn't just, actors going and they put on their makeup and then they say things. It's like, no, you got to like light a scene. You've got to find it somewhere in New Zealand to film it. You got to build the whole set kind of thing. But by the time I was 15, I think, when I was 15, I would have discovered Rian Johnson, because his second film, The Brothers Bloom, is still one of my favorite movies.
A top 4 in your letterbox.
Yes, yeah. And like I rewatched it for the first time in a while recently, and I was like, oh, thank God it holds up. I was terrified that I wouldn't love it as much as I used to. I think it's a really interesting like installment in that it's probably his least known film. Definitely his least seen.
Never mentioned when you get like Rian Johnson brackets The Last Jedi, Brick, or Looper. Like it's never mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of crucial to a theory I have about Rian Johnson, which is he does a kind of darker, serious film, and then he does a silly one. Because he does Brick, he does Brothers Bloom, he does Looper, he does The Last Jedi. Which is,
for all intents and purposes, like the silliest Star Wars
Last
film.
Jedi's silly.
There's your mum jokes within the first 3 minutes. Like, it's crazy.
And then, you're seeing that with the Knives Out franchise. Knives Out, Glass Onion, Wake Up Dead Man. So the next one's going to be silly. But Brothers Bloom, I absolutely adored as a 15-year-old, and I think it kind of made me aware much more of the kind of sleight of hands that you can pull as a director, because it is about con artists. It's about that sleight of hand. But it's a great film if you haven't seen it.
Great cast.
Yeah, good. Like Rinko Kikuchi and Mark Ruffalo as your supporting characters, and Robbie Coltrane. Like, incredible
R.I.P.
cast.
King. Yeah.
Yes. But by 20. I did have a regrettable Marvel phase, but I don't think it ever would have entered the favorite films discussion. Some of them are good movies. Iron Man 3, good movie.
It worked. The shared universe thing, that first time they did it and pulled the dang thing off, it really worked. And it was very easy to get sucked in and go, wow, Guardians of the Galaxy, good movie. It's night and day now, obviously.
Yeah, now it's slop, but
it's heinous. But that first era was, no, I'm with you. I knew the difference between a film like The Dark Knight and a film like Iron Man 2 were, again, very different beasts in terms of artistic merit and output. But it was very easy to kind of get sucked in and see these people pop up in each other's movies before it became something we rolled our eyes at. It was very... There was actually goodwill back then. So no, I don't think you shouldn't be ashamed. We were all there. We all showed up.
Yeah, but my trick, because 20 I would have been at uni and I would vibe out because I studied film. They'd always make you go around and say your favorite film at the start of a new shoot. And if it was if we were getting wanky answers, if Tarantino was mentioned, I would say that my favorite movie was How to Train Your Dragon, because it's I'm not going to play with you guys. I'm not going to be on this level. If it was interesting films that were being mentioned, I would mention Brothers Bloom as my favorite. But How to Train Your Dragon, definitely in the conversation by then.
Some real 4D chess. Look, I'm a huge How to Train Your Dragon fan, to the point where, once again, I've only listened to your episode of the live action because I just can't bring myself to watch it.
I had a bad time doing it.
Can you remember kind of a movie that reminds you of home? that just, I don't know, maybe it's something that was a VHS sitting on the shelf that has a very special meaning to you that doesn't mean much to anyone else. You know, it's kind of this thing that I grew up with, like maybe 5 core VHSs that my parents had.
Oh yeah, the limited media that we grew up with.
Yeah, and I kind of not fear, but I'm very curious to see now in, you know, the age of the algorithm and streaming and endless, you know, paywall possibilities, if that's going to hinder someone or not. Because I do kind of see it is almost kind of what I just said before about your show, this Stockholm syndrome. You're kind of locked in with a very limited amount of media, and then you kind of form, I think, very real obsessions with them because you're not being kind of guided by what everybody's watching, and your experience is so different to the person next door to yours experience, etc., etc.
Yeah, I have memories of like specific movies that I would watch at specific friends' house because they had it. It's like I can remember watching Beauty and the Beast at a particular person's house, Mary Poppins kind of thing. We had Lion King. That was like the VHS. And at one point, my sister banned me from picking it when we were watching movies because she's like, I've seen it too many times. I've seen The Lion King. We know what's happening with The Lion King. So yeah, like in terms of if you're like, what was the VHS growing up? It's Lion King.
Was that the film and point where you realized you liked movies a little differently to your friends and family, or?
No, I think Lord of the Rings was probably that. Like and it's a little later. It is DVD era. But if there's a film that I've genuinely felt a little homesick watching, it's more recent, and come with me on this. It's Furiosa, because a decent chunk of the B unit stunts were done out near where I grew up. Like sort of middle of nowhere, central New South Wales. So they moved in.
Because you're in Victoria now,
yes,
right?
So it's actually, I live closer now to my hometown than I did when I lived in Sydney. But yeah, they moved out. And so it's complete. It was only second unit. So no actors, just stunt people and crew out in this town of about 2,500 people. About 600 crew moved in for a few months to shoot all of these second unit stunts. And going into the film, I was like, oh, I know this. I don't think it will affect how I watch it. And then watching the film, I was like, oh, it's just like home. And let's be like, no, they've digitally added in mountains because it's actually a plane out there. Like, yeah, it was weirdly nostalgic to see Furiosa and be like, oh, that's where I grew up.
That's amazing, especially for a film that came out like a year ago, 2 years ago. That's amazing. Look, the closest thing that was shot near me, I grew up on the south coast of New South Wales, and there is a quarry nearby, and I know the live action Power Rangers film had shot a scene in that quarry, which is not a claim to fame, but it's just facts, you know. I've got to ask, speaking about your show in particular, is there a white whale production that you have in your sights that you cannot wait to dive in on, or you're waiting to see it plan out? Like, is there this great failed production that you're obsessed with? I don't know, like, you know.
I mean, there's definitely movies that like I see on the horizon and I'm sort of like, okay, yeah, we're gonna have to get into that. The one that I'm kind of, it's white whale, but also I probably will cover, is the Michael Jackson biopic that is currently being done, because if the current reports are to be believed, they had to reshoot the entire third act. And originally there was a framing device around the allegations that took the attitude that the allegations were unsubstantiated, and that had to be axed when it was realized that a settlement had been signed that prevented them from ever doing that. And no one thought to check whether or not they were legally allowed to, like, absolute clusterfuck legally. And they had to reshoot about a third of the film. That's what's currently being said about it. I don't know if that will turn out to be the truth. But also, like, Antoine Fuqua, I think, is a really interesting director as someone who, like, has succeeded in the studio system, and he's made some perfectly entertaining but largely kind of meaningless films for a long time. Like, I enjoyed King Arthur as a 12-year-old because I was a 12-year-old. Like, his Magnificent Seven, we won't talk about. I'm pretty sure he did the American remake of The Guilty, which breaks the core concept of the film The Guilty by going outside. So for him, but also to be like one of the possibly like most successful, like frequently working black directors in Hollywood, to have a film like this that is, you know, about one of the most successful black artists of all time, but also at the same time one of the most controversial.
I wonder where it will choose to end. My friend a few years ago, I went through like a relationship breakup, and he's like, "Hey, my wife got tickets to see the Elvis musical. Do you want to come watch it with me? We'll take your mind off things." I was like, "Yeah, sounds great." And it's the Elvis canon as we know it, and it ends just as he's about to go to Vegas, and it's like, and that's the story. How cool. He went on.
It ended so well there.
Yeah, it just ends with him going, "Well, honey, I'm going to Vegas." And that was where the play decided to end. And you're just kind of like, oh, what about him dying and becoming like essentially a slave and having to do like 500 shows for somebody's gambling debts? None of that. It was just this happy ending. I really hope that's how maybe like Michael and Bubbles just like fuck around and find out and go cruising and the movie ends. Like, I would love it just to have this like, see you later, guys. Everything actually was fine. Like nothing bad
Things
happened.
ended okay.
Yeah, no, I'm really curious to see. And there's rumors that might be 2 films, right? Or we still don't know? Or
Yeah, no, I think it is just the one because, well, it's coming out
they lost a third of
relatively
it as
soon.
well.
Yeah. They're like, well, we were going to make it 2, but it turns out now we've just got like 1.5 movie. We can cut that down. Like,
on the notion of biopics with multiple entries, where are you standing opinion-wise on the Beatles cinematic experience?
I will only watch it if someone doesn't edit like that movie Time Code where they all run simultaneously in like 4 quadrants of the screen. Yeah, I'm not particularly interested in the Beatles as like, I think like something like Get Back is what you want from the Beatles, which is essentially a hangout series where you happen to be watching the Beatles imploding. Yeah,
John Lennon's nodding off because he's addicted to heroin. George is quitting at the drop of a hat. Like, that's fascinating. It's such a brilliant fly on the wall, like, the most 4 famous people on the planet, and they let camera crews film them as, their implosion was imminent. It's so good.
Yeah, and I think that's always going to be more interesting. I think like the biopic too as a genre it needs to die, and it should have died with Walk Hard. Like, Walk Hard should have killed it by all rights.
Do you think, the Beatles coming to it so late and perhaps also being the greatest the greatest band of all time, do you think that will kill it? Do you think that will be the one that's the one to end them all?
I think they'll keep making them. Maybe they won't be as successful. I don't know. I think casting every white boy of the moment has definitely helped them and will help when they're like, the promotion for this is going to be unending. Like, if you disliked Marty Supreme because of the promotion, you're in for a time.
I can already see the Rolling Stone cover with them crossing Abbey Road in their, like we know what's coming. It's going to be fascinating. A gun to your head, what if they were like, you have to, because as far as we know, they are coming out all on the same day, one film per Beatle. Who are you watching first?
Like, to be honest, for the gag, it would be Ringo. Like,
I think it's Ringo.
I believe in my heart that Ringo will be a slapstick comedy, where the rest of them are like serious worries. He will be like underwater animated sequence in an octopus's garden.
I'd love it like Ringo gets lost, and that's kind of like his subplot in A Hard Day's Night. I would love if that's kind of him. It's just him not at sessions, him not in India, him just being Ringo, like locked himself out of the house.
Yeah, he's locked in a cupboard, like
in real time, like a 2-hour just real time Safdie-esque breakdown film. I think the Ringo notion is exciting because like he's also the one that we know the John and Paul story so well, even if you're not a Beatles fan, how they met. Ringo joins the band comparatively late. I just think that's the most fascinating one for sure.
And I think as well the talent gap is really interesting because obviously Ringo successfully was a member of the Beatles. You can't take that away from him. But I always think about one of the late in life Quincy Jones interviews where he just stopped giving a fuck and just started spilling tea. And he talked about they were trying to get a single beat out of Ringo in a studio and they simply couldn't. It was just one, like a particular jazz beat that he just could not play. So eventually they're like, you know what, go to the pub, have lunch, have a beer, chill out. They got a session musician in. He did it in 15 minutes. Then when Ringo came back, they were like, hey, do you want to hear the last take that you did? They played him that. He was like, oh, yeah, sounds great, and left. Like,
that rule. Maybe that's the Ringo movie.
Yeah, but the movie is trying to get the session musician in time without Ringo finding out.
On every Beatles album. I am reminded of the great John Lennon quote, Ringo's not the best drummer in the world. He's not even the best drummer in the Beatles. And it's probably true. No, I really want that one. Barry Keoghan's a freaky little guy. I think it's perfect casting.
Yeah. I'm like interested in the George Harrison one, if only because I know the least about him. But also I remember years ago, I did some script reading for a production company and there was a project that was about George Harrison and Eric Clapton and their rivalry over a wife that they both shared. Yeah. But I was stupid and got confused. And for the first 40 pages, I thought it was Eric Idle, not Eric Clapton. And I was like, damn, he had a wild life. I assumed that those guys hung out. Yeah. So I was like, wow, they had a wild time before starting Monty Python.
I think I'm pretty sure he produced or financed Life of Brian and everything. He was very tight with the Monty Python guys. I'm so curious if they are like 4 perspectives from that, encapsulate the same amount of time, or if it's like the John film's the first. You know what? I'm so curious to see.
Whether it's a chronological or,
And the talent, like they've got Greg Fraser not working for 2 years essentially on anything because of these films. Like, I'm so curious about it. I am a Beatles fan. I mean, again, much like many people, it's not a crazy brag. Like, they are the most famous band in the world. I don't particularly want this. I thought it was kind of like beneath the Beatles brand to do I kind of get it now though, in the wake of like Chalamet Dylan and the Springsteen film. Like, I totally understand why it's happening, but I am so curious at the 4 films on one day thing. Maybe we'll be speaking fondly about it.
Maybe it'll be Barbenheimer.
It's Barbenheimer times 2. Yeah, no, that's insane. Have you ever come to a film late that you've put off because people, like, you were proud, I don't want to watch that because this person's taste is trash, but then you come around to it? Have you ever watched something later and you're like, damn, you know what, that actually was really good?
Definitely one that I avoided, not because of the film itself, but because of its reputation, was American Psycho. For a long time, I didn't watch it because I kind of absorbed it through pop culture, because I would have been like 5 when it came out. So I'd absorbed it through pop culture and kind of that idea of what it is and the film bro perception and, Patrick Bateman grind set kind of thing.
And now how, it is a seminal text for a certain red pill type of male.
Yeah. And I think what got me kind of more interested was I just saw the description of it. I can't remember which critic it was, but they were like, it's a book written by a misogynist and a film directed by a feminist. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, because I knew that Mary Harron had directed it, but I hadn't really thought much. It's so funny. It's such a funny movie. And I feel like I don't get how people misunderstand it. It is on the nose as a satire. It's not hiding its
so
cards.
Funny. I think it's Bale's best performance still.
Oh, and absolutely.
I really feel sorry for whoever is going to be in the Luca Guadagnino remake.
I think they shouldn't do it. Like, they just
I don't think they should do it.
Yeah.
No, I think they should not do it at all. It is such a funny movie. The performances are outrageous. I love it.
Yeah, and I don't get how you misread it. Like, it's one of those things where, like, something like Wolf of Wall Street, I can see the kind of Schrodinger nature of, like, is this a satire or is this a glorification? I don't watch American Psycho and be like, damn, what a cool guy. I'm like, look at this fucking loser. Like,
look at this piece of shit loser sweating over a business card. It also features what I think is the most tolerable and probably the best casting for him, Jared Leto performance.
Yeah, because he gets killed with an axe, and they didn't tell him that that was the move that Bale was going to make. So that's fear in his eyes. He thinks maybe Christian Bale will kill him.
The only way I would be interested in watching a remake of that is if it was the Gus Van Sant approach to Psycho, where, like, because how else are you going to beat those blocking scenes? You know what I mean? Like, how can you compete with what exists already? I'm not really I do think original ideas are king, and remakes are, an evil necessity for IP management, but I also don't lose much sleep over them because they are an evil necessity. But this is one where I'm like, this is an uphill battle, Luca.
Yeah,
like,
you don't need to be doing this. Like,
please don't do this. Yeah. Is there anybody you could see in that role that would make it work for you, or absolutely you just can't?
Yes, there is. Dakota Fanning. No, not Dakota Fanning, Dakota Johnson. Other Dakota.
Wow.
Because in Materialists, I would describe her performance as Patricia Bateman.
And her web connects us all, famously.
Yeah, famously. Yeah, I think she could do it. But again, it requires you to make a movie that they're not going to make. Like,
she's so Bateman-esque in that film.
And I think as well, even if you were to do female Patrick Bateman, you run the risk of good for her. Like, the thing about, like, Christian Bale's Patrick Bateman is, like, you can't watch it and be like, oh, yeah, he's right. Like, there's no way you're watching and being like, he's right. But if it was a woman, you would be like,
yeah, good for her. Yeah, I would have put the head in the fridge too. That's a good move.
Yeah, it's like one of the many things about Joker Folie à Deux that I'm like, how did you fuck this up? Is it's like, if the Joker was a woman, I'd get it. Absolutely. You tell someone to smile too many times and she starts killing, sure.
I am one of the rare Joker Folie à Deux, like...
defenders?
I just think it feels like a movie that the Joker made.
It
to me, that's kind of the best description I can say. It's just kind of like, how do you follow up, a pretty basic,
a Taxi Driver ripoff,
Joker washing of Martin Scorsese's work of the 70s, which I also I'm like, you know what? If a film like that is using big IP, not that expensive, and getting people potentially into
early Scorsese,
I'm like, I kind of think that's kind of not. It's kind of the least troublesome thing that a comic book movie has done in a long time, if it turns you onto something else. It's also a good looking film, I think. Like, it's shot beautifully, but I think the second one is just it's insane that it happened and how it happened.
I think the fact that, like, in the lead up, people are like, oh, how did this happen? And I'm like, no, he got everything he wanted. Like, this is a movie with no creative compromises in it. It's just that what he wanted was insane.
Yeah, and we're never going to see that again on that scale. Like, it is the follow-up film to Academy Award winning performance. It's insane. Like, it blows my mind. It's kind of like if the Gladiator II Nick Cave script got made into a film almost. It's kind of like if that is your follow-up to Gladiator. Like, it doesn't resemble the first film in any way, much like the Gladiator script. And it's kind of like... would really, the people who kind of love Gladiator on its surface level would be really pissed off with that sequel.
Oh, they'd be furious, yeah.
Yeah, with which I still think that screenplay has the best final scene of any film ever, with the allusion to the hand in the wheat with the soap in the Pentagon toilet. I'm like, that's mic drop shit. I'm like, that is the best thing I've ever read. I get chills every time I reread it. Because immediately when the second one came out, I detested it, and I was like, I need to reread that original screenplay.
Yeah.
I hated the new Gladiator so much. I think it's like an atrocious...
I found it fascinatingly empty. Like, it was so nothing on every level.
Yeah, I think if the film was called Rome, I would have liked it more. But the fact it was like... and just lost the Paul Mescal plot, and it was more about backstabbing emperors and politics. I'm like, that to me was much more interesting.
Denzel in that.
Denzel's the best thing about it. Yeah, that to me is a way better film. If it had nothing to do with Gladiator, I'd be like, okay, I get that. I want a few more of these, actually.
I remember in the lead up to Gladiator 2, there was some polling stat released, which was, the company was gauging people's interest in certain films on the street polling kind of thing. And they said, on average, the mention that Denzel was in Gladiator 2 increased like interest in seeing it by 10%. Like 10% of people who had no interest whatsoever would be like, oh fuck, Denzel? Like, and they're right.
I haven't seen him having that much fun in a film in a very long time.
Yeah, and I will give it, Gladiator 2, the one thing I will give it is the costumes are good. They're good costumes, and they're good storytelling costumes. Everything else, I think the only scene where Paul Mescal's performance makes sense is the one where they've just doped him up. Like, in that moment, I'm like, oh yeah, that's your performance. It's head injury Mescal. Like,
I can't help but every time I watched it, I think I saw it a few times because I had to understand why I didn't like it. I do that a lot. If I don't like something, I become quite fascinated into it, which is why I think I really love going rogue.
I don't
same. I don't like to end it at that. I like to go, well, why don't I like this? Why am I having such a visceral reaction? And why do I care so much? Like, I think I saw it 3 times to try and crack that. And I just couldn't get past the fact that, we again, kind of similar to Joker, we have this film as a follow-up to an Academy Award-winning performance, and we have Russell Crowe delivering, as he calls, like, what did he call it? Like, drunken Shakespeare theatre. Yeah. And he's giving these, like, kind of idiotic speeches, but with such gravitas that every line he says you're listening to and with bated breath, leaning in on the edge of your seat. And I just think Paul Mescal never rose above, like, a social footy club coach with his speeches. Just like, all right, boys, that was a good one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just
boys, we can do better.
The energy was so low that I was just like, dude, I mean, not only... I actually spoke to Rusty last year, and he kind of went off king. It made it in Variety, Hollywood Reporter, whenever. He just started shit talking Gladiator 2.
Good.
For about 5 minutes, and I just didn't say anything. He just spoke, and he said that women were coming up to him because you know how he has the band, the Indoor Garden Party.
Indoor Garden Party, of
which
course.
My friend who took me to the Elvis show, that was actually my present for his 40th. Was I got us tickets to the Indoor Garden Party, and it was like one of the best nights. In between songs, Russell just kind of will tell stories about times on set when like an animal handler lost a tarantula and it like wound up on him. Just like weird bits, and you're just kind of like, can you stop playing the songs and just like start telling us more about?
Just do the Russell Crowe story hour.
I think the only country where Indoor Garden Party like crack the charts is Italy. They love him, and it's all to do with Gladiator. And I think they played something like 50 shows there, and I think they played near the Colosseum. And he said as Gladiator 2 was coming out, he was there performing. And women were coming up in the street accosting him of cheating on his wife from the first. Like, they were like, how dare Maximus have a bastard child? And he was like, what? I think that's how he found out. And he is so offended
Affronted.
at that. He is so offended. He's like, I cannot believe. He's like, there's no way that character would have done that. He is like the number one Gladiator 2 hater. It's insane. It's so good. And you know, if Rusty's like, you know, I'm with him again, much like the legions of armies he had under his command. I am with him. I'm with Maximus always. It's really funny that I've only recorded 2 of these, and we always talk about Megalopolis and Gladiator.
Yes.
It's great. I just love that. Yeah. I'm learning more about myself via those 2 films.
Yeah, I think as a nation, our inability to produce an actor who can believably play Russell Crowe's son is like, we need a royal commission into it. Because
who could do it? Who could? I couldn't think of anyone.
There's truly like Ryan Core has done it. He has played a Russell Crowe son in the past, and I think he's having a little bit of a moment after House of the Dragon.
Aaron Taylor Johnson, after he played his son in Craven, which I'm surprised. I was going through your feed this morning. I was like,
I have seen Craven.
But you haven't? Have you done the Craven episode?
I did it as a combination with Mufasa as a bonus, yeah. But also in that they do have Levi Miller as young Aaron Taylor Johnson, and still lacking the sauce, I'm afraid. Like,
are you in mourning that are you now
to the Sony cinematic universe
that it's now being brought back? Did you read this week the Sony CEO is like, we're doing a second Spider-Man-less Spider-Man?
I'm so glad they're doing that, but also this morning I saw, I don't know if you listen to The Town, it's a quite inside baseball. Yeah, but I saw in my feed there was like multiple episodes with the Sony head that was like Sony CEO talking about like Marvel's current missteps, and I was truly like, don't sit in your glass house holding that brick, my friend.
from the studio that brought you, from the guy that signed off on Madam Web and Craven being like, yeah, you know what, the multiverse saga is kind of mid. It's like, dude, I do think the Venom 3 ending is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a like press screening ever. Just him like reminiscing of his parasite buddy while standing. Beautiful time.
But also that one's so beautiful in that it is like a reflection of the ending of both Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey. And it's like as a franchise, you know what, I don't enjoy Venom, but I enjoy Venom. You can probably chart my relationship to movies with Venom, because the first one I was like, I hate this. The second one I was like, ooh hoo hoo. And by the third one we were seeing it in IMAX. Like,
yeah, no, I had that same trajectory with you. I think going back and watching the first one, it's kind of like the closest thing to Jim Carrey in The Mask. Like when Tom Hardy is in the lobster tank at a Chinese restaurant or something, trying to cool down. It's some of the great. I think that film is amazing in that it also, I think, has 3 sets. I think it's like his apartment, the convenience store, and a lab. And it's just the scale of that film is so small. It is so terrible, but I love it.
as well. Like, I think the thing that pissed me off in the first Venom is that it is technically incompetent in ways that I find inexcusable. Particularly, it doesn't know how to light Riz Ahmed. And it's like, he's your villain. You should have worked out how to light his skin tones. And there's a very early scene where he's evil CEO and like there's kids being shown around the office and a little black girl asks a question. And both of them, I'm like, I would like to see these actors, please. Can we get like a little fill in? Can we get something?
Also, considering the titular character is black.
Is black goo. Like,
he's black goo. You'd think they would have, really impressed upon themselves. That film also contains my other favorite line in a film besides the "See Your Buddy" one, and the third is the when Michelle Williams says, with every like you know, almost like as if this was going to be an Oscar clip they played before. Not, she just says, "I'm sorry about Venom." Like they're sitting down on the sidewalk, drinking coffee. You know, they've split up. She's happy now. So she says with
But she is sorry about Venom.
She's so sorry about Venom. It's one of the, and I'm like, and that's why she's the best. She can deliver that line the same year Manchester by the Sea came out, and you're like, well. Yeah, she contains multitudes.
Although, like, do we give it a better ending than Madam Web, which has all of the orphans that she's adopted giving Madam Web shit about how she leaves her mail downstairs in the apartment? And, like, the way that... Because you see them open the door and come into the apartment, and you can see that that apartment only has a staircase for access. And at this point, Madam Web is in a wheelchair. And they're like, Madam Web, you keep leaving all of your mail downstairs. And it's like, I don't think she lives in an accessible apartment, guys. Also, she is blind. Like...
That was I really wonder if the new threat of a looming Spider-Man-less Spider-Man spin-off series will reach the highs of the Sony Spider-Man. You know, I have such a like, I love that it exists. Just like 5 or 6 dog shit movies. The only way those characters are connected are because of Spider-Man, who for legal purposes cannot be mentioned in any of those films. And it's just like, it's like going, yeah, I'm going to make a Star Wars movie, but like we actually can't mention the Force or Jedi or lightsaber. And it's just like, so what is this then? It's just kind of like...
we're outside and we're in space. Those concepts are not legally protected.
Yeah, it's psycho. And again, it is a horrible industry, the film industry, but it brings me so much joy. Like, you know, it is an industry. It's about business and making money. And it's that, you know, I'm sure this is why you're in love with it too. It's that beautiful, horrible Frankensteining of artistic work and output and money. And never the two have the same goals in mind. And
absolutely not.
It's fascinating. And that series will forever just be an amazing... I think, like, you know, they probably spent a couple billion on all of them when you add... And it's just
they're not cheap movies. Like, they look cheap, but they're not cheap movies. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's... I miss it. I miss them. I find myself missing them.
Madam Web, I am stealing this. I think it was Joel Dusha from Plumbing the Death Star described it as being the closest, like, watching experience to drink driving. And there's just something about the way that the cinematography in that film works. That, I genuinely felt like I was about to crash a car while watching it.
Joel Dusha was one of the people that I call it now den pilling when I was at...
Getting you into the den of thieves.
It was at Levins's, my co-host of my other shows, 40th last year, and Joel was up for it. And I was like, I'm going home to watch Den of Thieves again. You should do it. And I think I den pilled him at that. And he went and did the same thing. He's like, oh, wow. I went on a work trip actually last year, and it was like a flight to WA from Sydney. So a long flight. And a colleague we're all on this, there was about 20 of us on this plane, and we'd both downloaded Den of Thieves on our own devices, and he'd never seen it. And we had an alarm set for 12 so we could watch it at the same time. We're sitting aisles away, and we're just like, whatever happens, do not pause. And we just watched Den together in the sky, and he was successfully, that was a successful Den pilling.
Yes. Incredible. I feel like the closest I've ever done to that was... My sister was like, I want to watch something tonight. What should I watch? And I was like, have you seen For a Few Dollars More? She was like, I've not seen For a Few Dollars More. I was like, you should watch it. You'll like it. It's my money, the best of the Dollars trilogy. And then about 5 minutes after saying that to her, I was like, I could watch For a Few Dollars. Like, there's nothing stopping me watching For a Few Dollars
I could
More.
watch it.
So yeah, like opposite capital cities, just getting the occasional text being like, this movie is so much more homoerotic than you would have ever expected.
Kind of similar to the text I got about Den of Thieves. You know what? You might few dollars more pill me, and I hope that perhaps I den pill you.
Yeah.
You recently wrote a great article about physical media for The Guardian. And do you think that you have an ability, you know how people hear... people that are into Zodiac and not the killer, the star signs.
Oh, okay.
No, they're like, oh, you're such a Capricorn. Like they'll lie. Like I think that's bullshit. But they'll just be like, oh, you're sorry if you believe it. If they're
what about me suggests like.
Do you have that ability by looking at somebody's physical media collection? Can you like tell a person by what they're putting out publicly?
I think, it is kind of a statement what you put publicly. I'm just looking like across at mine because I've only relatively recently started like getting into physical media again.
Did you go through that purging when we were like, streaming's the future, and then you're like, fuck, what did I do? I'm going to rebuild?
A little bit. Like, I feel like I left a lot of stuff at my parents' house at various points. So when I went to my parents' house and I was like, I'm just going to raid your DVD shelf. You don't watch these. So I've got like quite a lot of things that we grew up with.
Cool.
Like definitely, I feel like my copy of Return of the King is probably the one that I got for my 10th birthday.
Is that the book, the book-bound looking one, the extended
No,
one?
it's just the most
OG?
bog
The theatrical.
standard theatrical. I'm the theatrical cuts defender. Superior cuts.
The one you're supposed to watch. Like,
Yeah.
The other one's
to watch at home. Like it's a different experience. You're watching the deleted scenes, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I think like what you choose to put out in your physical media collection, but also like even having one, you're like, I'll just have a little browse, like see what you got. I have a friend who has like an incredible physical media collection, and it is great that like I was around at her house and I was like, I've been meaning to watch The Raid 2, and then she immediately just handed me the Blu-ray. Like that kind of Blu-ray dealing is so admirable. Although for anyone who's like physical media curious but doesn't want to commit, my local library has an insanely good Blu-ray selection. Like for some reason, the particular local government area was like, yeah, we'll put some stats in Blu-rays. So like I'm just looking across, I have a separate bookshelf for library so I don't get confused. I've got like Two Lane Blacktop, which was like the Monty Hellman, like the Criterion of that, Nightcrawler.
Criterion at the public library.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. That kind of stuff is still around, and libraries do still have CDs too. Like,
when I think of physical media too, and I think you spoke about this in the article, I think of arriving at an Airbnb, it being shitty weather,
and seeing what
and
they've
there's
got.
no streaming, and you having to kind of Russian roulette basically with several films. Have you ever had a memorable experience being at a place that's not yours, no internet, wanting to watch something, and you're like, well, I guess we're watching The Sorcerer's Apprentice starring Nicolas Cage and Jay Baruchel? Because that happened to me. I would never watch that film under any other circumstances than while staying at a Airbnb with a bunch of friends, and the weather, surprise surprise, was dog shit. We all watched The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
We got a lot luckier. It was for my sister's 30th. We were at an Airbnb, and they had VHS of Shrek 2 and Legally Blonde. So like that, and that was great. That was beautiful watching. Like,
yeah, no, that's a very were they DVD Shrek 2?
No,
or VHS.
VHS. So we couldn't even pick our own winner of the Far, Far Away Idol. Like
Pan and Scam, baby.
Yeah.
My favorite butchering of a director's vision. You have, I also read recently your amazing, and this is like crack to me, your piece on costuming in Star Wars.
Yes.
Which I love because, yes, I too love telling people that Luke Skywalker wears Levi's.
Yes, his little bleached Levi's.
The stormtroopers wear blonde stones, etc. Like, I just love the fashion. Have you ever aped somebody's fashion in a film, a character, or a look of a film into your own personal style? Have you ever folded that in? Have you ever adopted, not a personality, but maybe a look, or you've gone,
I have, but it's cringe.
They're all cringe. This show is cringe. This is all about cringe, please.
So when I was about 21 or 22, I'd had long hair for a long time because, being a teenage girl in the mid-2000s, you had to have long hair. And it had never suited me. And I went to the hairdressers and I showed them a picture of Olivia Thirlby in Dredd, who has like a curly blonde bob. And I'm now old enough and wise enough to admit that was a terrible reference photo because she has a completely different face to mine. But that was what I showed them, and that was what I got. And it was not sustainable because that's got a light curl through it. I cannot be fucked doing that every day. But yeah, that's truly, I took that in and I was like, this is what I want. And that's what they gave me.
That's so funny. I thought I was the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz when I was 3, which I don't know. There was no costume or so. I just thought that I maybe didn't have a brain. It was just the vibes. Yeah, I think I thought I was an idiot or something. Yeah. Have you ever turned off a film or walked out of a film? Are you one of those people? Or
I'm normally a completionist. Definitely, as an adult, I'm a completionist. There are 2 movies that I distinctly remember being like, nope, and turning them off when I was a teenager. And even then I was a completionist, so it was notable enough to remember. And they were both Zack Snyder movies. It was 300 and Sucker Punch. And this was in the era of because I went to a boarding school, and it was definitely the era of you had a hard drive and it got passed around. And it was like, oh, what movies have you got? Which is also how I got some of my high school friends to watch The Brothers Bloom. I was like, hey, his hard drive.
The hard drive sharing is something that I think is really interesting because it is kind of this bridge between physical and streaming. It's kind of like
and I think it is coming back a little.
I do too, especially with the rejection of streaming. I remember staying in hostels the first time I went to Japan in like 2008, and I got a like VCD rip on someone else's hard drive, and that's how I watched The Wrestler, and the VCDs were in two halves always, so I remember like at a pivotal moment that file ending and then having to
just a
open
big
the other
intermission card.
Yeah, which is kind of like flipping a laser disc, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I do love that there's a weird physicality despite it being digital, but no, you could not watch them. You were just like, fuck this, I'm out.
I think I got 30 minutes into each of them, and I was just like, I don't want to see the rest of this. I have no interest in it. And like actually going back, because I rewatched them when I was covering Zack Snyder, and I stand by 18-year-old me. She was right.
Oh yeah, she was.
It was incredibly hard for us to find the theatrical cut of Sucker Punch. Like it was really difficult to get a copy of it, and I wanted to watch that because that's kind of an interesting compromise Zack Snyder film where he had to make it PG-13 despite the content itself, like the actual the film itself should never have been PG-13.
Was Sucker Punch post or pre-Watchmen? It was post, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it was a little bit of a reaction to being like, you've got to, like, we need to get this to a wider audience. But yeah, like, that would have been the version that I would have been watching at 18 and been like, no, I'm out. But yeah, it's kind of weird watching the R extended version. It's like, this is closer to what Snyder wanted. It isn't exactly what he wanted. But even then, I'm still like, no, you're not cooking with this one, Zach.
Is John Hamm in Sucker Punch?
John Hamm.
That's
right.
Oscar
Isaac is in that.
I saw it. I've only seen the theatrical. I saw it in cinemas.
So you would have missed in the extended cut. Maybe it plays over the credits of the theatrical. Oscar Isaac has a little song sequence.
I don't know.
Singing with Carla Gugino, like sexily, and you're like, this man is textually a rapist, like.
I believe that would have stayed with me.
Yeah.
Unless I'm really good at blocking trauma. But no, I don't remember that. I believe that is not part of the Sucker Punch theatrical experience. It's more just the schoolgirl outfits while fighting people with swords and shit that I remember.
Yeah, it is like, you hate to make everything about the current discussion, but if you were to make a Zack Snyder film with AI, you would get Sucker Punch.
100%. Look, you turned off 300. May I suggest to you a Gerard Butler film that you mightn't turn off? It's called Den of Thieves.
Perhaps,
It's one of the best to ever do it.
No, I watched 300 with the audio commentary. That was the only way that I could sort of sit through it. And that is an insane audio commentary because it's Zack Snyder saying things that he should have been taken to court for. Like, being like, anyway, that's my son, and I got Lita Headey to hit him. Like...
That's correct. Also, Zack Snyder you see a photo of him and then you hear his voice, and it's one of the funniest voices for a guy that looks like that, I think. Yeah. It's just...
He's a little bit Ben Shapiro voice. Like.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, Zack Snyder's so interesting. Like, I feel sorry for him. Like, he's gone through absolute trauma of late, and he's kind of just known for making shitty films, but that aren't respected by people who like films, but are respected by people that... you should be weary of. Like, I just feel for him. He's kind of got this Sisyphean job of trying to be an auteur, like so desperate to be the visionary director of 300 or whatever they put in front of his films, and he's just never going to be that guy.
But I think like the problem is that there are enough people around him who will support anything he does in a way that he won't ever really change, if that makes sense. Like, I think, his wife is his producer, which I think, in some cases that can be, your Emma Thomas and Chris Nolan kind of relationships. I don't think it's that in this case.
Back on your Star Wars fashion, who do you, piece that you wrote, which I want to put in the notes. It's a great read. Who is the most dripped out Star Wars character? And you can't say Han Solo. Who do you think is...
like, Padme's outfits are phenomenal. Like, rewatching, going back to the prequels, like, I know Padme cosplayers, like, if you ever see one, they've been in the trenches. Like, you got to thank them for their service, because those costumes have detailing that, like, that is so hard to replicate in any way, shape, or form.
I do think her Attack of the Clones wardrobe might be the best too. Just the range, like every single scene and every single, like, if it's day or night, like she's changed outfits.
Yeah,
even on
yeah.
Tatooine, which would have been a fucking hassle to do because
Yeah, she's just like lugging her like absolute like should be in the airline holes style luggage around Tatooine. She's trying to get the wheels through the sand.
her there is an outfit in that film where, you know, the famous like shadow kiss between Padme and Anakin on like the Tatooine, on the homestead, and she kind of just looks like a Ralph McQuarrie Star Wars sketch with, she has something with like, there's something in her hair, I'm trying to remember, there's like silver metal things holding her hair, she's got the kind of it's just like the most Star Wars image ever. I think that is my favorite costume. I think watching Andor, like when Cassian season 2, when he's on Gorman and he's pretending to be like the fashion designer,
He looks a little bit like Lin-Manuel Miranda in that sequence in a way that I couldn't unsee. Like, also, like, if we're talking just pure design, I love Rey's costume in The Force Awakens because I think that that's like, it's a utilitarian costume.
It actually looks comfortable too.
Yeah, and every part of it, like her like head wraps that she's wearing in her opening scene, like that's actually a long sleeve shirt. So the idea is that like if she's out at night, she has an extra layer. If she needs sun protection, she has that. The goggles are like repurposed stormtrooper lenses. Like there is a lot of thought and methodology in that costume that is also like a good simple look that kind of bridges that like gap between the original trilogy and like modern filmmaking. So yeah, I really like that. I don't like the way it ends up looking by Rise of Skywalker, where it's like, what if the same idea but none of the actual thought behind it?
But she has a hood now, so
yeah, she's got a hood, which, okay, this is unbelievably nerdy. The hood in Rise of Skywalker looks like shit because Leia's hood is not a hood. Leia's hood doesn't have a seam up the back. It's just two long bits of fabric and they're long enough to sort of drape. But Rey's does have a seam up the back. And so the one scene where she is actually wearing it, it's got like a little like chicken like beak kind of vibe, like a real peak to the back of it. And yeah, it looks terrible.
And that scene in general, I just detest, with like Mark Hamill's dog shit wig and... That's that one, right? They're on Acto Talk. Yeah. Disgusting stuff. I guess, you know, you are somebody who cares about Star Wars more than the average person. And in an actual way where you care, and, you know, it is kind of much like the Beatles, I was talking about earlier, like the text of how we perceive modern music and stardom. And look, this is great. This is tying into the moment. But Star Wars is also, to me, I think, like, it, you know, it predates the Lord of the Rings trilogy and is like the text of like, you know, documentaries, behind the scenes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
How do you, I've got to ask you this, how do you feel about Star Wars at the moment and where it's going?
Not great. I think the shift at the moment is interesting in terms of going from films to content. And I think that The Mandalorian and Grogu is that's the Rubicon. Like once you have gone from being, and I think I talked about this in Going Rogue, but like Star Wars and Indiana Jones are pretty much the only pure film franchises we have where they were films. They were not based on anything. There was no source material. They were original films that launched their own like entire universes, but they started out as film.
By very definition, they are cinematic experiences, which, and they are free of the shackles of adaptations that we've seen with like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, The Hobbit, every comic book thing. Like, yeah, they are these pure things. Yeah.
So for like Mandalorian and Grogu is an attempt to go back to cinema from a streaming series. And its success will be really closely watched, I think, by every other streaming series for like, can we do a Stranger Things film? Can we leverage this IP? But I just think that as a choice, it's stunningly cowardly to be like, we're going to do another film. What are we going to do? We'll do a film off the show that was successful, but also the show that has been like rapidly diminishing returns in terms of season to season. And
a show that's left the like public conversation, like they haven't done anything for about 6 years now or something, right?
Yeah, I think as well.
Maybe not that long, maybe 3 years. Yeah.
Like, to be honest, The Mandalorian kind of fell apart when they brought Baby Yoda back in Book of Boba Fett. Like in terms of like cowardly decision making, that's where it started. The third season is atrocious. I've never rewatched it. I felt no desire to see. Whereas like those first two, I'll defend season 2. It does get a bit glup shitto-y, but I will defend it because they're my glup shittos.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think 1 and 2 are like, if that was all we had of The Mandalorian, that would be one of the great modern era television shows, I think.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we're getting more, and then we've got Star Wars Starfighter coming, which like Sean Levy.
Do you feel weird about being more excited about a Sean Levy film than a?
I'm not excited about it though. Like Sean Levy. Not even
with Tom Cruise shooting a scene in a river or something.
The thing with Sean Levy that no one wants to acknowledge is that he looks like Alan Cummings' Wario, and I feel like he is kind of a malevolent spirit. Like, Hey,
but he gets Taika Waititi riffing on a level that is... What's that?
Oh, my God. Okay, Free Guy as a movie, no one else cares about this. It does one of the most blatant rewrites of temp music that I've ever seen.
Really?
The score was done by Christoph Beck, who also did the score for a Disney short, and it uses not only like basically the same music as that short, but the blocking and framing. It ends the film with basically like the exact same blocking and framing as that short film in a way
that animated short?
Yeah, in a way that made me feel insane watching it. But I was like, I swear I've seen this before somewhere. But yeah,
this is why you do what you do. This is why going rogue is like one of the great experiences that I get to enjoy. We've just mentioned Taika Waititi. What type of if Sean Levy is a malevolent force, what's your relationship like with Taika?
You know, at the end of Willy Wonka, where Willy Wonka is talking to Charlie, and he's like, "Do you know what happened to the boy who got everything? He lived happily ever after." And like, I feel like Taika is what happened to the boy who got everything. Like,
he got Rita Ora, he got Chris Hemsworth,
and all he had to give up was any of his source. Like,
credibility and source.
I really love his early films. I love Hunt for the Wilder People.
Hunt for the Wilder People,
like,
masterpiece.
Boy. Like, they're gorgeous movies. And I think that in 15 years, we're going to see like the sequel to Boy, but it'll be directed by his daughters, and it'll be about what happens when your dad just like kind of abandons you when you're 10 years old to go direct Hollywood films. Like,
yeah, that's fascinating. I had a run-in with him at a tiny Japanese bar called Grandfather's when I was there 2 years ago. And it's a tiny bar, fantastic bar. It's in Shibuya, and there's an old man that stands behind...
The titular grandfather?
The titular grandfather, and he sits... It's kind of a subterranean bar, and he stands in front of a vinyl collection which only has English records from, like, English-speaking records from the 50s to the 80s, and you write down a song on a piece of paper and you hand it to a staff who then will give it to him, and if he has it, they will play.
Incredible.
I was there for a few months, and so I developed that was a nice sanctuary for me, and I really created an anthem for myself in Bob Dylan's like 80s period with the song Joker Man, and I don't know if this was to do with Filet à Deux or what was going on, but I was the Joker Man, and I was sitting there one night, and it's maybe 8-10 seats in there, and Taika Waititi wanders in with two guys in suits and like sits next to me, and the four of us are the only non-Japanese people there. And I'm kind of looking at him, and I spent a bit of time at Grandfather's that day, and so I'd have a few drinks, and I guess you would call it Japanese courage. And I was like, "Hey, I know who you are. Can I tell you why I think you're here?" And he's like, "Oh, sure." And I'm like, "'Cause you're still trying to make Akira, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, no," and then like tapped his nose, and then I have an Akira tattoo on one of my thighs, like just a symbol that's on one of the characters' jacket, which I think is mildly tasteful, compared to some of the other tattoos you can get based on animes. And so Japan's they're very formal, and they're not used to
not huge on tats either.
Not huge on tats, or people taking their pants off in a bar to show. Yeah. And I just pulled them down and said, "Well, don't fuck it up, because I'm gonna have to get this removed." And he was just like, "Can I please get a photo of that to show the studio?" So I have a photo that he then airdropped me of him leaning next to my bare thigh, a week later, the film was cancelled.
Oh,
Maybe 2
I think
weeks
it's your
later.
fault. I think it is your fault. Yeah.
I think, because I did not want that film to exist, because that is a perfect film, I think. And I think it's a fool's
one of those
errand.
real, there's no point remaking it in live action. Like, you cannot do what it does.
No, and I kind of have had a going rogue-esque relationship with that film. I have a friend who moved to LA and became an actor. I used to work with him when I was working a retail job at a Borders, RIP, physical media.
Rip.
Big rip. Great way to build a library up when one of the managers likes you and just says, oh, you can just take that home. And really good way to build film, CD and book. Yes, that's probably why you don't exist anymore. Your staff was just taking stock. But he is kind of racially ambiguous, which is great because he gets cast in so many roles of many different races. Which probably isn't great, but he sent me I think it was like I should send it to you. You've probably got it, but he sent me I still have it in my Gmail way back. Like it was 2010, like a script for Akira when Leonardo DiCaprio's production company was behind it. And it is just a masterwork in whitewashing where within the opening text of before the film even begins, we're given a crawl. And it says Japan has been destroyed, so America has given New York to Japan. It's just like New York is now full of Japanese people or white people with Japanese names. Like that's how they explain, which again ties into film production. And obviously, a Hollywood studio was making this, and they would have been like, well, we're getting non-Asian people in these roles, so we need to have a line that explains why the extras will be Japanese or of Asian descent, and Leonardo DiCaprio or Joseph Gordon-Levitt I think was attached as one of it was
2010 Joseph Gordon-Levitt was really playing that look up on Wikipedia what his parents' surnames were
where's he born? He again racially ambiguous actor, much like my friend, but I have had a going rogue-esque relate, so I was charting the failures and the many attempts of this production, which happily looks like it might be dormant for
finally
good now.
Dead.
Yeah, but I do like to think I played a small domino.
Your thigh played a small part in it.
Yeah, while it was frowned down upon by Japanese culture, what I did was actually preserve
it was the
their
honorable
culture.
thing. Yeah,
I was like, guys, you don't know what I'm doing right now. It's kind of like the Shogun, I guess, that series. I was like, I am the crazy, which is very funny. Shogun was coming out while I was over there for those few months, and I was like,
you're like, I'm Cosmo Jarvis.
Actually, funny Cosmo Jarvis story. I was supposed to interview him for something, and it's usually, when an interview gets cancelled, you kind of feel like, well, I've learned so much about kind of a useless topic. I better start a podcast or something to get that information out, or I'm going to explode. And normally they're horseshit excuses. They're like, we ran out of time, blah, blah, blah. This is the only excuse I've ever been like, damn, I'm honored. They said, sorry, Cosmo's working on a film at the moment and he's almost cracked the voice he'll be doing for it. And he just doesn't want to do an interview where he might lose that voice that he's working on. And I was like, you know what? I reckon him and Tom Hardy are the only two people who can use that excuse.
I
think
there's a third person, and it is Robert Pattinson when he was doing Boy and the Heron.
100%. What was he? Yeah, I like too that is the only dubbing where he's like, you know what? I'm going to sound like the original actor. I'm just going to do what he was doing and do it in English.
Yeah.
Austin Butler maybe also can join that conversation about weird voice decisions after seeing the Bike Riders. Or
I don't think he can get rid of that. I think that's with him for good now.
The spirit of Elvis lives inside him. Yeah, he just consumed the spirit so much. Baz Luhrmann force fed him Elvis, and he's cursed to be the king.
Yeah. He took some Devil's Pact and didn't win the Oscar for it, but he's got Elvis with him for good.
What is it called again when two films?
Twin films.
Twin films. Do you see Priscilla and Elvis as twin films or just two sides of the same coin?
I think Priscilla is fascinating in that I would almost describe it as what if Don't Worry Darling understood what it was doing.
Got the assignment.
Yeah.
They are similar in the sense they have young male heartthrobs playing.
Yeah, but it's about sort of that prison of getting what you thought you wanted, which is, this wealth and luxury, but also to kind of be a doll in the dollhouse. And again, Wuthering Heights tries to do that as well.
Misses the mark completely.
Absolutely.
They're like, here, have some sunglasses. And you're
what if there was a song about how you feel bad? Yeah, like I enjoyed Priscilla more than I was expecting to. And like in terms of the legal restrictions that they had on that film as well, really interesting. I do think a more brave version would end with Priscilla starring in the Naked Gun series, but probably not Sofia Coppola's version.
I think a braver ending would have been the stage play I saw where they're like, everything just worked out great.
Yeah.
And the movie ends here.
They stayed married and...
So, okay, Kaylee Spenny's playing an older Priscilla in Naked Gun. Who's playing Leslie Nielsen in that scenario, in that final scene?
I think you go for broke and you get Austin Butler.
I mean, I think Austin Butler with white hair.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's the only instance he has of losing the accent.
Yeah, it's the only way to get him out, is to throw him in the deeper end.
I really like Austin Butler. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I have a similar feeling towards him as I did Channing Tatum, where I'm like, I just really like you when you rock up.
Channing Tatum is like meathead dancer vibes, where you're like, I don't think you've got much going on, but I think like it is kind-hearted.
I think his plot in 21 Jump Street, where he kind of does the, I'm the nerd now kind of arc. I think that's kind of... I like to think that's like kind of autobiographical. I like to think he kind of went through a similar one, but with dancing instead of science.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like him. I'm more on the fence about Austin Butler. I really hated Caught Stealing. So
I didn't mind it because it was kind of a nothing movie. And I know that sounds weird, but I put it on after like months of people, I think Aronofsky's so hit or miss. I do need to rewatch Noah during my self-imposed
Russell Crowe period.
Yeah, because that is such a bizarre film. I watched Caught Stealing and I was kind of like, oh, it's just like a Tarantino ripoff from the early noughties that littered DVD shelves.
Yeah, maybe I'd just been like tricked by the marketing, but my problem with it was that it felt like the tone was completely wrong. Like for what it was, which was kind of like, it's a caper and everyone's after the money, and the tone was really nasty, like quite grotty.
I mean, there's a kind of fridging that happens so early
Yeah, there is. But even, when he kind of gets the shit beaten out of him by some gangsters, and it's not a case of, I've got the shit beaten out of me, now what? It's like, you're going to go to the hospital, they're going to remove a kidney, we will show the scene where, like, after getting this shit kicked out of you, you piss yourself and there's blood in it. And then we're going to be like, hey, what if you had to look after a cat? And I'm like, I feel like the cat isn't jiving with the rest of this plot. The cat's performance, incredible. Tonic, the cat actor, absolute generational talent.
Also, I'm really loving seeing Bad Bunny pop up in stuff. I think he's like one of his transition from stage to screen, I think, is one I'm watching with great interest. He's nailed every brief so far, I think, including his SNL digital shorts.
I do think, though, a lot of the time, particularly in films, they're like, how can we come up with a way for Bad Bunny to not have to say any lines? He'll be there. He'll be in the movie. He won't speak. What's
the last film that you watched that reminded you why you love movies? Like a new film or a newer, maybe not a new film, but a new film for you, not a rewatch.
Ooh, I saw No Other Choice the other day, which is, it is a new film, but I missed it up until now. And then as a symptom of how unemployed I am, I saw it at 2:45 on a Tuesday.
So that hit different given the plot of that film.
Yeah, it's fun to have an anxiety attack during the film. No, I thought that was... Like, Park Chan-wook always brings something that you would never expect. And for me, it was the sound design in that. Like, there was just such, like, really delicate decisions in terms of, like, even in a phone conversation, who sounded like they were on the phone. Or there's, like, one particular scene, it's when he's just met the second guy he's decided to kill. He's leaving the shop, and just all of his mouth sounds are really high in the mix. And it's just like these tiny little decisions that are like, if you were to just look at films as like, oh, you need to get the most like representative, real version of the film, then like if you gave that to a sound mixer, they'd just, none of this would come up. It's all so deliberate, and it's tiny stuff, but it just adds so much to it. Yeah.
Amazing. I loved No Other Choice. One of my favorites of last year. And I just got to ask, Tansy, in the Tansy Gardam film, the biopic, who's playing you?
Ooh. That's tough because, not to get political, not a lot of female actors are allowed to look like I do, which is not like female actors. I mean, like, yeah, I'd love it to be Margot Robbie, but I don't think that would be true.
I mean, I don't know. Margot,
No, I think more accurate would be like you'd do something weird, like it'd be Marcelo Hernandez or something. Like,
I think we can lock that one in.
Yeah, I think like as well, like I'm so kind of done with biopics that are just like, we're going to give you the truth. We're going to get straight to the truth of it. And I'm like, that's just not interesting. And as well, like what you were doing is telling a story. So yeah, do something insane or like, yeah. It'd have to be a comedian because otherwise, what's the Carrie Fisher thing of like, it has to be funny. Otherwise it'd be true.
Exactly. What's is it I'm Still Here? No, what's the Dylan?
Oh yeah, is it I'm Still Here? I'm not there. Yeah.
There's like 9 films that are
You Were Never Really Here.
Yeah, I remember there was like a series
putting on You Were Never Really Here when you're trying to watch the like kind of wacky Dylan biopic would be
you're like, holy
an
shit.
Unfortunate experience.
What's that hammer? I didn't know Bob Dylan. He went electric, but not like this. They're very instructive films. So they're like, don't come here. And then there's the walk-in one too. I'm not there. I'm like, well, where are we? Are we not here? It was just like, it was like a who's on first type shit. It was, well, look, Tansy, where can people find you if they want to go deep on the source that is getting obsessed with films and charting troubled productions?
It's on Going Rogue. It's on all of the podcasts, however you get them. I'm so untech. I put it up there and it's there. And you can also, if you want even more of it, there is a Patreon. And
if I highly recommend subscribing to the Patreon because it's
less hinged. It's far less hinged.
Yeah, no, and you will get bonus episodes for things that are like you kind of said, like you created the show because Andor was about to come out, but the bonus, I think we had a Superman one, we had some timely dives.
Yeah, which is good because the show itself, it is a real monster to research, so it's not particularly regular. I think about all of the advice that they're like, just try and make stuff that's like relevant in the news cycle and have a scheduled weekly release. And I'm like, cool, no,
absolutely not.
But there is a new season of Going Rogue that will hopefully be coming out soon. I've just recorded the 2nd episode of 5.
Can you give us a hint of any titles that might be appearing, or if you don't want to reveal it?
Look, I'll be honest. We have discussed today one of the things that really forms the first episode of it, which might be too much of a giveaway. I'm not being coy about it at this point, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm hoping to get it out before Mandalorian and Grogu, which should give you an idea of what topic it's on.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So it's not Den of Thieves or Joker 2.
No, sadly. Although, who knows?
I guess I'll have to do that.
Yeah, maybe Joker 2, I don't think there's a Going Rogue because I genuinely think they got everything they wanted. Like,
it's kind of the it's the Last Jedi-esque experience, except the Joker version of it. It's the twisted dark it's the dark undercarriage of what happened on the Last Jedi set.
Yeah.
It's been such a joy talking to you. Thanks for
having me.
I loved it. I loved it was just what I wanted, and to get a private, what I'll call Going Rogue episode kind of right now. I feel like the luckiest boy in the world who has it all, much like
Taika Waititi.
Much like Taika. Look, if you see a director that you don't want to see ruin something beloved, just take your pants off in a social space where it's frowned down upon. That's got
a time machine and do that to Kenneth Branagh. Maybe that's why maybe I've already done this, and that's why Disney took down Artemis Fowl, the movie that they deny they made.
Do you have any Artemis Fowl tattoos that we could perhaps
no,
work into
but
this?
like,
would you be willing to get one for the purposes of time travel for stopping it? Or
look, I feel like having the film is already such of a rarity. Like Disney don't want anyone to have the film, and I've got it ready to go at any time. Like
it's the Song of the South for the Zoomer generation, isn't it?
Not as racist, but oh boy, is there some racial implications in the decisions made on that film.
Oh man. That's why we do what we do. Look, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And I can't wait for the new season of Going Rogue.
Yeah, neither can I. I can't wait for it to be done.
Movies. That indescribable feeling